The Canadian Federation of Independent Business is keeping an eye on this week's Committee on Internal Trade meetings. From the meetings, the CFIB is hoping the government will work on expanding mutual recognition agreements between provinces in food, labor, alcohol, and services. That's just some of the goals. They have a lot more, too. Here to talk more about that is Ryan Mallough, Vice President of Legislative Affairs at the CFIB. Ryan, thanks very much for joining us.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
What would be a win for your group out of these meetings?
So I think first and foremost, something that's truly tangible in terms of progress. We've seen a lot of really positive momentum this year, especially at the beginning of the year. All the provinces and the federal government have been saying the right things. We've seen signing ceremonies. It's all been in the right direction, but none of it's being felt on the ground. And we want to make sure that we are able to take the next step and actually deliver tangible on-the-ground differences for businesses, which means when trading across provinces, they're just able to do it. They're not having to look through the next province's rules, figure out what they need to comply with. The mutual recognition is there to ensure that they can just trade.
And what are the next steps you need?
So I think it's the mutual recognition that 9 provinces have passed legislation on to actually be implemented. I think one of the challenges that we've seen in a lot of the legislation, Nova Scotia, Manitoba, Ontario, is that mutual recognition has been contingent on another province sort of moving first or along with them. And it kind of has a little bit of a stalemate going on where I think Nova Scotia is in the lead right now, Manitoba close second, have agreements with some provinces, but not all provinces. What we'd like to see come out of this meeting is just sort of a blanket acknowledgement that, if we're going to move towards one Canadian economy, then one set of rules should work. Mutually recognizing everybody's rules so that we can move forward would be the best way to do that.
And it's been, I guess, about 8 months roughly. Are there some victories for you so far?
Again, I think we've seen some progress in the sense that we have seen 9 provinces come forward with legislation. I believe Newfoundland and Labrador is the last holdout. The new government there is committed to moving forward. We are seeing some progress on things like the alcohol file and that there are commitments to allow direct-to-consumer alcohol shipping. But even then, that commitment right now is slated for May 2026. Manitoba allows this, has always allowed it. We can just do it. We'd like to see governments actually move, put a little bit more action behind the positive words that we're hearing so that we can get things done and get goods and services moving within Canada.
And now the other one you're concerned with is food. What are the issues there for you?
So one of the biggest frustrations that we hear about food is that anything that is provincially inspected isn't allowed to move across borders. So for example, if you are a butcher in Ottawa, you cannot move things across the river into Gatineau. If it's provincially inspected, it has to be federally inspected, despite provincial inspection working for consumption in Ontario. Having some mutual recognition on that and just acknowledging that if it is good enough to eat and consume in one province, that should be good enough for the other province would be huge. There's federal involvement in that too. It's the CFIA that is largely there, but we would like to see those rules, again, mutually recognized in something that's all-encompassing so that we can move those goods across provincial borders without the additional layer of red tape and federal inspection.
Now, that doesn't seem that difficult. I would hope most of the provinces probably have very similar food standards, or cleanliness and things like that.
You really would hope so, but the town of Lloydminster is a great example. It stretches the borders of Saskatchewan and Alberta. I think it's a highway that separates the middle of the town. It was only this year where businesses on one side of that road could transfer their products to the other side of that road when provincially inspected as part of a federal pilot program that lasted a couple years. But that's how silly that this had gotten. So while it is something that can be done, we've seen it be done, to date it hasn't. And so we're hoping that this meeting they can hash out their differences and get it so that, again, we can just get goods moving.
Now, I know you want to see continuous progress, but are there some things that the government could do now that would make an instant difference?
So I think it's sort of walking their talk is what would really do it. We've got the legislation in place. There's either the sort of mutual recognition, if you recognize, I'll recognize, a number of provinces. BC, Quebec, and the feds have taken a slightly different approach, a little bit more regulatory, but perhaps broader. Everyone kind of has the mechanisms in place. It's enacting them broadly that we're really looking for. And the concern is that if they can't come to sort of an agreement across the board, what we're going to wind up seeing is functionally sort of individual trade agreements between every single province. So instead of having one governing piece of legislation or blanket recognition of rules, we're actually going to have dozens of rules and regulations that businesses will need to go through. And that's something we don't want to see. So I think just sticking to what they've committed to and actually enacting it would be the major step forward.
Okay, Ryan, thanks very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Ryan Mallough is Vice President of Legislative Affairs at the CFIB.